July 26, 2021. We're here today in Midtown Hanover, and we're here to have some fun and do good work for the town. As always, the first order of business is public comment.
Hello.
David.
Last time I spoke here,
David, would you introduce yourself, please?
my name is David Vincelette, live in Hanover. Do you have to be a Hanover resident to speak at these?
We usually let most people speak, but we do ask people to identify themselves.
Okay. Last time I spoke here, long after I left the room, you decided you were going to put into the record some talk about me, and you keep repeating the same lies, Peter. Okay? I haven't filed a bunch of lawsuits and lost them all. That's just a lie. I wish you would quit repeating that. I corrected you before. And as far as you responding to questions I have, you've never responded to any questions I've had, ever. So don't pretend to the public that you respond to my issues. You've never written me a single note, ever. You lie repeatedly. And it's uncomely. Now today, I got a call from Mr. Houseman saying that I wasn't to call the town attorney. Now, Mr. Houseman has been used by this board first to put a fence around human beings, hold us hostage for 25 months, and then during the time we were held, he helped with the eviction and the destruction of the homeless shelter at Shantytown. And now he's calling me up, telling me I don't have my First Amendment rights, that I can't call whoever I choose. You better draw him in, because he's going to be in serious trouble if he keeps messing with me. That's about enough illegal stuff against me that he can do. He better not step on my property, ever. Now, as far as the body camera, I came to this board and I explained to you, the body camera footage was taken by the police of proofs that I was illegally held and my driveway was blocked for 25 months. That body cam footage is not being released by the police department. The chief of police, Charlie Dennis, wrote me a letter and said that there were 3 exceptions to not having to release them. One of them was physical restraint. Now, I have been writing to this board during the 4 years that this has gone on. I've called you repeatedly and cited the exact law under state law that applies. It's called restraint of freedom. I submitted it to the town manager. I'm hopeful she's let you all know that this is the exact portion of the law that the town has violated. You're not allowed to restrain people from their civil rights. You're not allowed to hold somebody hostage, put them so they're not at liberty. Now, I've begun working with somebody over there. The body camera footage was not allowed to be released, so I have to go through the courts, evidently. But one of the policemen over there was nice enough to actually step forward and try to get some of the information from the body cam put into the record. So there's a written record available to the public of the evidence of holding people hostage in violation of the law by Mr. Houseman in this town select board, the town manager, and others. So I kind of like to know what the board's plan is about trying to, or the ability of the public to get information under the right to know law. We're supposed to have the right to know all kinds of information, and as I say, restraint is one of the reasons that body camera footage can be released to the public. So I'm asking you, will you step forward and see that that is done, that the body camera footage is made available? Is this another of the things you're going to answer someday?
Do you have any other comments tonight, David?
I'm just wondering whether you're going to respond.
Do you have any other comments?
Does the select board have any position on whether footage paid for by the taxpayers of a crime committed by this board, overseen by the zoning board, Mr. Houseman from the zoning board, the town police, the fire department, all three unions that have gotten raises recently, you're covering for all of them, and you don't want the film that proves it released. And you don't feel one way or another on it. And you don't want to respond. None of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, thank you.
Other.
Never moved. I'll move on the agenda to,
I guess I will read this.
yeah. No,
Are there other people?
Excuse me?
David's here.
anybody?
Any other public comment? David, please come forward. Welcome.
Hello, I got a little lost on the way here. I had to go to the side door and the rain came out of nowhere. I just wanted to really quickly, well first my name is David Millman. I'm a Dartmouth undergraduate. I hope you're all doing well. Since this is the first gathering since the town meeting, I just wanted to just say a little bit about student perspectives in the town government and how we can, all move forward together. And so first, I just wanted to give congratulations to Nancy Carter and Joanna Whitcomb to the town for passing the community power plan. That's amazing. I think with all the smoke and going outside and seeing the notice on my phone, like the air quality, and I think it's such an important issue. And then also just thank you to all the work that went in for election day and the election site and the business meeting. And also a special thank you to the town clerk, Betsy McLean, for answering my relentless and frankly cruel amount of questions I've sent her over the past 6 months. I think a common refrain surrounding student voices in government is that we're transient, that we live here for 4 years and that we're in our bubbles and we leave, and that we don't care. And yes, individual students, they come and go, and there will always be that type of nature, but there's always going to be a student body in town. And that was sort of the essence of my campaign for Selectboard. That students, since we make up more than half of the population, that we should have some input into what happens. And I think it's a mutual relationship. We have to put in the same that we want to receive. And so I think that, obviously I didn't win, but I just really want to highlight the outcome on July 13th it's the summer, and with 1,400 voting eligible students with international students, almost half came out to vote in a municipal election in the middle of the summer. And, I think it just really highlights over the past year, students in our community have felt left behind by the town and the college. And, I hope this showing is something that the board can think about when conducting the business of years to come, like ordinances, zoning, and the town and college master plans. I think there's just a tremendous opportunity to build back our community stronger than it was before by incorporating student voices intentionally. And so I hope in my capacity to bring student concerns here as a student assembly member, as a student myself, and I just wanted to indicate my willingness to help in any way possible. For this meeting in particular, I just wanted to briefly touch on the housing issue. Right now, the last community conversation said there were 93 college students, juniors and seniors, still on the housing wait list, which is quite frankly due to the failure of Dartmouth College to plan ahead. And I've spoken with students who are worried about job plans, they're worried about graduating on time, and for international students, they're worried about losing their visa status. And since I think we're a community, I think it's really important to support each other, and this involves rental housing. And so at least to my knowledge, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if the family ordinance has been historically enforced in general. And I've spoken recently with some students who say their landlord has dropped releases or reduced accounts or made them find other living arrangements because they're worried about losing licenses. And these are just from messages that I've received on social media. And while of course I support inspections for public safety reasons and to make sure that they're living habitats, but I just want to really make sure that this aspect, this perspective is heard when considering inspections and enforcement of the ordinance, especially with the new language that passed at the town meeting. And with the recent, I think it's HB 154 that just passed in the State House, that gives new incentives to municipalities to build affordable housing. I think that the college master plan and the town's master plan can address these problems, but also include students in the conversation. I think if you're still skeptical about the impact that students can have, I think you can look at 2015 in the West Wheelock plan. It was approved by the planning board, had a large number of stakeholders involved, but it didn't include students, and it failed by 266 votes. And that's 1/3 of the amount of students that showed up to vote during the summer when there were only 1,400 students on campus. So when it comes to issues like housing, transportation, or just general accessibility, it's my experience that students want to help, and I think that as we rebuild from this pandemic, we can include all voices and make a better Hanover. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
David.
David.
Anyone else for public comment? Hearing none, the next order of business is the presentation of the sidewalk and pedestrian plan for downtown area improvements. Phase 2. Rob.
Good evening. It's nice to see everybody in person. This is my first in-person meeting in a year and a half. I hope I can figure out the technology.
Would you introduce yourself, please, for the record?
Oh, yes. Carolyn Radish. I'm with Friedman Peterson. We've been working with the town on developing conceptual plans for Main Street. We talked about Main Street about a year ago, I think it was. And now, in the second phase of work, we're looking at conceptual plans to improve multimodal accommodations, not just pedestrians, bikes, and also there's some transit improvements along the streets that we're looking at as well. So we just, there's a little bit of distortion.
How's that going on TV? Is it going well? You need lights off? Do you need anything help?
Is everything okay?
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Okay.
You guys are good, just you.
So we've been working with the city's team over the past several months, just looking at some different options. Again, these are conceptual plans. We're worked out to scale. We don't have a survey. There's certain issues we don't know about grades. Some things that you would address in more detailed design, but it's helpful to get a sense of what's possible. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. So we have 3 alternatives. We looked at East Wheelock, College Street, Wentworth, and North Main. And really, the 3 options are addressing College Street. Each plan is the same for the other streets. So I'm just going to start with East Wheelock, go around, and then talk about the different college options. So in terms of, there's a lot of crossing pedestrians, so that safety is an issue, trying to channelize, the pedestrian crossings and making it safer, to have a safer mix with cars going through here is a key objective. How can we get bikes through in a safe manner that is also comfortable for as many riders as possible are the primary consideration. So East Wheelock Street is pretty constrained and it's in the public right-of-way with the pedestrian refuge here, you know, the mobility hub, the sidewalks along the south side of the street. So the bicycle accommodations are shared lanes. There's just not room for bike lanes in this particular street. The eastbound direction is very slow. Personally, I find it a little uncomfortable riding behind angled parking, but there is the opportunity to go through the green for bicyclists that are less confident. In terms of pedestrians, we really want to make these crossings as narrow as possible through the use of curb extensions. Here, we want to calm traffic, so this is showing a raised intersection here to kind of do calming, and it also makes it easier for accessible, you know, wheelchairs and other wheel devices going across the street. In terms of, you know, we have yield markings here. It's like a stop bar, except there's not a stop sign, so we have yield lines to try and, you know, again, indicate to the drivers through pavement markings to yield to crossing pedestrians, to expect crossing pedestrians, and we stagger them so that you don't get a double threat situation, or it's called a multiple threat, where, you know, the one car is blocking the other car's view of a crossing pedestrian. So that's, you know, all the little things, you know, we're looking at turning movements and making sure that they work, but also pinching in the corners as much as we can to shorten the pedestrian crossing distances. And in the memo, there's a photo of a raised intersection with concrete pavers to calm traffic. And those are actually proposed on all four corners. Looking at college, oops,
Can I
sorry.
just stop you for a second?
Yep.
I just want to point out that the town's working group, the recommendation of that raised intersection at all four corners was by our Director of Public Works, Pete Kulbaki.
Yes.
So it's a really important thing to note that in the past, he is not, but he's the one that came forward with that.
Right.
Is that, I heard him correctly?
Peter, if you don't mind, if I could give a...
Please, Rob, introduce yourself. Grab the mic.
Sorry to interrupt, Carolyn. It's just such a highlight for me.
So I'm Rob Housen, I'm the Director of Planning, Zoning, and Codes, working with Carolyn and our design group, which is Joanna Whitcomb, Julia Griffin, Peter Kobaki, and Mike Chase. We've reviewed and brought forward these recommendations. Peter in particular was insistent upon this treatment because he felt that it would enhance the safety of our pedestrians. And it's a treatment that, when done with the right material, will have life expectancy that he needs out of the road pace while creating a safe environment. I also want to point out that we've sort of flipped the script. We were proceeding with phase one initially with a rush to get it done during COVID, thinking that the restaurants were going to stay closed. We've now flipped the script. This is our number one priority with hopes to see this implemented in the near term. So there's some sense of urgency here. And as we work through this, our goal tonight is to get your approval to bring this out to public outreach and feedback not dissimilar to phase one. With that, I'll yield to you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
Sorry to interrupt, Carolyn.
Well, no, it's absolutely fine. So this is showing a little bit of an example in Cambridge of a raised intersection at the Common, and just the different elements that you can see where it's completely level going across for the pedestrians. It's sort of set off by pavement markings. I took this image because it was by the Common, which would be like aimed by the green. Even you can see how it wears over time. But the pavement markings are giving a signal to drivers that this is a raised intersection and to calm down, and something is going to be a change in the roadway coming through here. These are concrete pavers, which are very durable. And then this is detectable warnings along the edges so that people with visual disabilities understand that the traffic is, there's a crossing area here. So I'm going to go back to the image. And so that's the treatment here. And at the back of the memo, there was a couple little pages from FHWA talking about how the crash modification factors that they see with using all of these techniques for pedestrian areas. So then looking again at College Street is very wide in its current configuration. Again, it's dangerous for pedestrians to be that wide with that volume of traffic going through, that volume of pedestrians that are crossing, the potential for that multiple threat crash where a driver in one lane blocks the visibility of a pedestrian crossing. And so the objective here is to really define the single travel lane on College Street so that it's not unclear, it's pretty unclear right now, through a couple of mechanisms. One is to put in a contraflow bike lane that's striped going in the southbound direction to help define the single travel lane. And then here we have a parking area, and this is sort of in its current configuration. It's a very flexible parking zone. It's only in the evenings and off-peak time periods. And so this alternative keeps the parking, the other alternatives don't. That's the main difference here. This could be, first of all, here's a photo of a contraflow bike lane. This again is in Cambridge on a narrow street, a narrow one-way street, so that's what it looks like there. And then, the treatment of the parking, I think, is important to keep it so that the road, that single travel lane is defined. It's not kind of a slush zone when the parking, the cars are not parking there. So this is showing one idea, and that is sort of pervious pavers that could be in that parking zone that absorb stormwater. It could be treated, the parking can be treated in other ways also, but this, has the ability to kind of better define the roadway zones that people are driving through and keep it looking more like a single travel lane. Again, here, Dartmouth Hall, as you know, is being renovated, and part of those renovations are to direct the pedestrians to either the mid-block crossing or to the intersection at Wentworth Street. So we're reinforcing those crossings, making this one a raised crossing. So again, it's just a gradual crossing that calms traffic and slows traffic because there's vertical deflection here going along College Street. This, because there's parking here and here and here, all of these, the geometry here is pinched in to tighten up. It's very wide right now, which again is more dangerous for pedestrians. So this tightens it up and shortens the pedestrian crossings and kind of makes it safer for cars and pedestrians to go through this intersection. This intersection is shown as raised as well. And I did also want to say that the combination of the single travel lane and the contraflow bike lane is the typical width that emergency vehicles would want, like 18 feet usually is what you want to keep clear for emergency vehicles. So these two work together to provide that emergency vehicle access clearance. Similarly, on Wentworth Street, we want to define a single travel lane here as well. And this one has, again, a contraflow bike lane going in the eastbound direction. And then here, we have a shared bike. There's a transit stop here as well, but it's not a high volume transit stop. It's, I think, a shuttle stop for advanced transit. So there will be at times, a bus there. But so these are striped bike lanes in both directions, a single travel lane, and really tightened up here. Again, these curb radii, we call them, the width of the curbs around here are very wide. And a lot of pedestrians crossing. It's 2 lanes right now. We don't think that both lanes are needed for the volumes of traffic that are on the street right now, but we don't have traffic volumes. And that 1 lane is better and safer, particularly given all of the pedestrians that are crossing here. Again, a raised crosswalk here. We want to put a a concrete pad here for the bus stop. There's a bus stop here, so a 5x8 concrete pad for the deployment of the lift and also to make the bus stop accessible to meet ADA standards. And then North Main Street here, again, when we talked about the plan for South Main Street, and the town has talked about this before, that 3 lanes, an exclusive left, an exclusive through, an exclusive right is not needed at this intersection. So here we're making it, especially because the phasing of the signal is all of these go at the same time. We're taking out the exclusive left, making it a through left, and an exclusive right here at the intersection. With that additional space, we can have a cycle track coming through here in the northbound direction. This is a raised crossing in the middle of the block, mid-block raised crossing, again, to make it safer for pedestrians crossing in the raised intersection here at Wheelock and Main Street, again, to calm traffic going through this intersection. These are just the changes that we brought forward from the South Main Street alternatives. So, there were several alternatives we looked at. So that's just kind of a placeholder right here to show how the intersection might work in this alternative. So then I'm going to just go to the second alternative. These are showing conceptual sections for all the streets. In the second alternative here, we don't have the parking along College Street. Instead, we have a wider tree lawn and a bike lane, a striped bike lane, and a wider tree line. But everything else in this alternative on these other streets is the same. Mid-block crossing. The geometry on this side is a little bit different because there isn't parking here. But again, we're trying to make this crossing safe and visible for pedestrians. And then the third alternative on College Street is just an even wider tree lawn and wider sidewalk along College Street with a shared condition for bikes in the travel lane and a contraflow bike lane going in the southbound direction. So those are the 3 options. College Street was the one that really had sort of several options that we could look at there.
What was the bike option in the first option? So you had parked cars, and where was the bike?
So it's shared.
It's a Sharrow, so it's the
with-
same as this one, except instead of the
This would be
green
parking.
space is parking.
Right, exactly. So that's the difference there.
And how many parking spaces would it be?
I think it's about 16
Parallel?
parallel spaces, yeah. Again, another thing that we mentioned in the memo is this sidewalk is really in not good condition. It's deteriorating, this major sidewalk along Wheelock Street. Also, the light fixtures are very high, not the best for lighting the pedestrian environment along this side of the street. So, at some point, sort of cleaning up this edge of the green with a sidewalk and light fixtures like the light fixtures that are around the green and on the downtown kind of would bring the area together. And so all of those things together would provide a better, improved pedestrian environment.
And bikes.
And bikes,
Right.
yes.
So, so you've been in Cambridge and have kind of a pulse of how the contraflow lanes work. Given on the common, well, actually, I don't know if there are contraflow lanes around the common, but we have the green as an alternative for biking. And I'm just wondering how that compares to other places that, perhaps don't have a green for biking through.
You mean having contraflow lanes? It depends on kind of where the desire lines are. And I think, that it's kind of easy to go through the green, but it's hard to say without knowing exactly all the dots that are being connected. I know from my own experience that sometimes you don't want to ride through the green. You'd rather be on pavement. You'd rather not mix it up with pedestrians, really, honestly. And then it's kind of what's the shorter distance between 2 points. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I guess the other thing that's challenging, even if you cross the green on your bike, is just getting back into traffic. So like
Right.
how, in terms of the contra flow, how does that work? Like, how do you get, and I think I'm more concerned about how you get into traffic on College and East Wheelock. The other places seem obvious.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
It's the same on the green, I guess, but you are dumping into kind of that
Yeah.
intersection.
the traffic calm zone. So what I've seen is they have a stop sign for the bikes. I do have a picture of it, but I don't have it with me. When they're approaching an intersection like that, it's like a little smaller stop sign. It's aimed at the bikes, and that can help them with this left turn here. And then here you're going with traffic.
Right.
But
Right. No, I think one of the takeaways from our design group was contraflows and sharrows are paint.
Right.
Are paint. Basically you're painting the road, right?
yeah.
And so, as we look at this, I think the takeaway was this was a nice solution to better address bikes and bike safety and pedestrians. And that if it doesn't work, it's paint.
Right.
It's, you're not spending a lot of, you're spending money on paint, you're not spending money on materials or, digging deep and landscaping, really. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is like you need the width for emergency vehicle access anyway. So you need to have more width here for a single lane road. So you can use that space in a couple ways. One really wide travel lane, but that is it's encouraging cars to go faster in an area where they shouldn't be going faster. And this is paint, and you can provide a bicycle facility that's separated. And there are a lot of bikes.
I do want to point out that we do have a contraflow lane in Hanover. We have Old Tug Drive, and it's not the same volume of traffic or the same volume of bicycles or pedestrians, but it does get used quite regularly at all times of day, and it does function well, in my opinion.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
I'm curious about the area sort of in front of Rauner and Baker, and I'm now beginning to see the tour buses stop by with college tours and then the foliage tours meeting and so forth. If this is a single lane, are the tour bus drivers, have they run out of options?
No, this is still, this is a 5-foot bike lane with a 3-foot buffer, so that's 8 feet is a typical parking lane width. And so this would be kind of a shared bus bike configuration, which, probably given the volumes of buses and bikes is probably okay. It's, and also the volume of cars. Like, we have these on Mass Ave, and like that, I really don't like that. It's really like not a good thing. And in fact, Cambridge is taking those out. But that's a high volume of buses and a high volume of cars in the adjacent lane and a high volume of bikes. So that really doesn't work here. It's not the ideal scenario, but I think it'll work fine.
And in terms of the turning radius for those big rigs, the buses,
Yeah.
Dartmouth coach, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
with all of these tightened crosswalks,
Right.
it'll all work?
Yes, they'll all work. You can kind of see how this, the way this has the space on this side kind of helps that radius. And in fact, this radius will be greatly improved
Great.
for the buses turning here rather than here. So this radius gives them all this more room to make that turn much easier. this one, when we did this sidewalk, we ran the coach and the fire trucks to see, how far out we could do this curb line. And, at the time, we said if they came from the center of the lane, it's much better. So yeah, the curb radios all work well, because you're going one way to one way street.
So Rob, could you tell me again what you're hoping to achieve tonight?
My hope is to receive this board's blessing to bring this forward to the public and to begin a public input process, not unlike the South Main Street process, which is reaching out through the planning board, the bike walk committee, and creating a page on our webpage, a public opinion
You brought to the
survey.
public with all three options on College Street, or just a recommended option?
All three options, and then present the findings of the public input and staff's recommendation for the final project for your blessing, and work with Dartmouth College eventually to bring this forward to fruition.
When would you hope to start this work once we know what we're doing?
Tomorrow.
The most important leg of this is college. As you probably have noticed, there's a little bit of construction happening on Dartmouth campus, with Dart Hall and the adjacent buildings, and their goal is to have this work done in advance of the 250th.
The 50th
The 50th,
of
yes.
having women at
Thank you.
Dartmouth.
Sorry.
So I'm sorry, what,
Next year.
next year, okay.
Yes, so
Next summer?
Next fall, the idea is that they'll open up Dartmouth Hall.
Okay.
And the idea is,
Our hope is to start this work next summer? Is that
have
what
it
you're telling me?
completed before in the construction season for next year.
Okay, thank you.
so the elephant in the room for me is parking on College Street. And I, as a resident, as someone who works at Dartmouth, I think we have after hours, right now, we currently use that after hours for parking. Events at the Hop, events at Dartmouth Hall, events on the Green, blah, blah, blah. Permanent parking, and Carolyn noted that it would be, after hours parking, but I think it has to be designed well, so I don't think we want permanent parking there. This is like the most iconic piece of campus in town. And to have cars parked there 24 or 20 hours a day or whatever, 18 hours a day would be a travesty for me. And so I'm just putting that out there, just so everyone's clear as to how I feel about parking.
I don't see any of these proposals recommending permanent parking, all-day parking. Okay. Thank you. Yep.
Okay. One of the issues I remember vividly is on the other side of the Green, on North Main there. Until the post and rail fence got put up, it was chaos walking across there. So just a simple fence like that directed people to the paths. If you don't have parking, and if you don't have any kind of fencing, even though you have a very well-designed crosswalk, human behavior tells me they're still going to, people, and mainly students, come out of class getting from A to B as fast as they can, not totally focused on the cars coming because it's part of the campus from what I've observed through the years. How are you going to change that behavior unless you have some kind of fencing, or the cars, if the cars were there, it would just hopefully say you don't walk in between the cars, but I know that happens also even on Main Street.
So one of the big discussions that we have on the Hanover Bike Committee, the Walk Bike Committee, whatever it's called, as well as with the planning board, is that some of the goals in the town are to take care of, we're all pedestrians, whether we're driving a car or on a bus or riding our bikes. At some point, you're parking your car and you're walking. So the pedestrian should be at the top of the pyramid in terms of how we address it. And we feel strongly that the traffic around the Green should be so slow that we should intentionally design it so it's slow, not so the cars can go fast. This is an integrated town and gown space.
Mhm.
And so there are design elements on College Street in that now there will only be one crosswalk there. and there will be only, well, at either end. People will cross, but we don't think a fence is a good solution for keeping pedestrians. We actually don't think it's what you don't want to have cars think it's okay to not stop at the crosswalk. You guys say it, you guys are the pros, you guys tell us.
What I can say, Bill, is that Dartmouth Hall has been, the pedestrian access to Dartmouth Hall has been reconfigured to minimize the desire lines to cross outside of the designated crosswalks. So unless they're not on a path, walking across the grass, their desire lines will be to the crosswalks. And those elements are incorporated into this plan. So ultimately, this will slow traffic down. It'll be safer for all users, most safe for the pedestrians. And I do want to remind everyone that the through traffic in Hanover isn't supposed to be coming around the green. It's supposed to be going down North Park to Wheelock. And the more constrained this is, the higher the probability that the through traffic will use the route they're supposed to use. The cut-through traffic is what we're trying to eliminate here. So, these constraints will improve that, in my opinion.
I guess the other answer to that would be if you do have massive pedestrian cross that you have to deal with at that point in time, somehow, some way. But not necessarily with cars, parked cars, right?
Yeah. No, just an observation.
No, I mean, I think it's a good observation. I think we've also all learned that, when the worst time to get through College Street is at, between 5 minutes of 10 and a
Noon.
minute after 10 for the 10 A's.
Around noon time.
And then, and so, I think we don't want to encourage cars here. We want to make sure cars can get through, but we are, a community of walkers, and I think we want to make sure we're taking care of the walkers.
Okay. Other questions? I mean, my sense is that this board wants to give you the green light to go forward with the public and the planning board and the zoning board and whoever else you have to talk to.
And then I assume we'll be talking about this for next budget year.
I bet we will be.
This actually may be, this is a joint effort. Customarily, projects like Dartmouth Hall and the adjacent buildings are obligated to repair or replace damaged sidewalks. And in lieu of this, we worked with Dartmouth to partner on this project with the expectations that we would partner together to bring this to fruition as soon as possible. Pete Kobaki has been integral to this design development, and we may actually have the monies in hand as a partnership with Dartmouth to bring this to closure.
So before I finish, David, are we missing anything?
I think that
Why don't you come up to the mic if you could?
I think it's just my experience as a student watching. I think students are just going to cross whatever they cross. I don't think we particularly, at least my personal experience, and I think of my friends, you look to see whether there's traffic and then you cross, unless you're at one of the major ones, going into downtown. So I think I agree with the assessment that traffic being reduced is the best case, because you want to make sure that, since students are going to just be crossing along, that there isn't like any danger that students could be,
Run over?
run over. I was wondering, I have a question. Who owns the green? I was always wondering like what the relationship is there, like within the town, or is Is it privately owned by the college, or is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Dartmouth owns it. The trees that are in the right of way, and they're owned by the town. And the town and the college care for them together jointly.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
David, I will take that as support for this plan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Rob, you anything more from this board? On this issue?
No, I think I have my margin.
You've got the green light, go for it.
Do you need a motion, or are we?
I don't think so. It's just-
Okay.
I'm comfortable with my margin. Thank you.
All right.
Great work, thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carolyn, nice to see you.
Nice to see everybody in person.
So we're here for our organizational meeting. The next item is for our organizational meeting for 21-22 select board. Oh, he's Bill, he's gonna make it. I lost my
Plan.
my planner.
I was gonna, are you making any motions?
No,
Are you motioning?
I'm waiting for a motion to be made.
I move that, okay, go ahead.
I move that the current slate of officers continue into the next year, which is Peter Christie as chair, Athos Rossi as vice chair, Joanne Whitcomb as secretary.
I second.
Yeah, easy for you guys.
Easy for us.
Okay, is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have the same slate, thank you. I don't see it later on, we have to do our liaison appointment.
It's next there.
Chats is up there.
Where do I see that on the agenda? I think we can do it now. Okay, let's talk about, is anybody looking for a change on your liaison assignments?
No, I mean, I would like to continue on the bike walk committee and I'd like to see this Board of Assessors through the assessment, the new reval.
And I would like to continue my appointment on the planning board and the Howe Library boards.
I've enjoyed my work with the conservation group and being an alternate on some of the other key ones, which has worked well, I thought, when the main liaison had to be absent. Athos, you happy with yours?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna be easy. Bill?
I'm okay, I'm continuing on the Hanover Finance Committee. Parks and Recreation is in limbo status at the moment, but I understand they may be revving back up, so I would continue with them.
So we will maintain our same liaison as we've had this past year.
Yeah.
Okay, that concludes the organizational meeting. I hear a motion for the acceptance of a donation to the Hanover Police Department by R. Shane and Alexa Boatwright, the amount of $3,000.
Did you just move it?
I'm looking for a motion.
I move that we accept the donation to the Hanover Police Department by R. Shane and Alexa Boatwright in the amount of $3,000.
I'll second that motion.
Rob, do you have any background on this one?
I do not.
Okay.
Sorry.
Very generous gift indeed. I think, hey, I'll ask Julia to give us a little background on
It
this.
says, it's on the back.
Is it in that?
It just says it's their appreciation for the Hanover Police Department.
Yeah, but I bet there's some
There's
specific.
probably a story,
There's
R.
something
Shane and
specific
Alexa.
it's fun to know about.
Yep.
So I'll try to remember to ask Julia to expound on that.
Well, it's a
next
generous
meeting. But in the
donation.
meantime, we're going to, all those in favor of, it's moved and seconded to accept this generous donation. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
And
Very generous.
thank you note should be sent, right?
Yes, I'm
That's
sure.
kind of part of the course, right?
Okay, we have some different, we have some labor grade changes that have been discussed in non-public session that are here to be formally presented and I think probably approved tonight. One is, I'll move a recommendation to adopt information technology specialist job title, labor grade 17.
I'll second that.
Rob, did you have any specific on this one? No.
No.
Okay, these have all been,
Right.
this,
We talked about it.
yeah, this has all been discussed. What we're trying to do is to be true to our, the last survey we did that established the right grades and salaries to maintain that and to upgrade or whatever as new data is received. So these next two, this one and the next one, are a result of looking at those jobs, seeing how they have changed since we last approved them, and recognizing these labor grade increases are needed. So is there any more discussion about the technology specialist job title? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And I'll also move the recommendation to revise accounting assistant job title labor grade to labor grade 15. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Athos. Same explanation, didn't been discussed in non-public session. Any further discussion here? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Minutes of July 12th. Anybody have any additions or corrections or deletions?
Not me.
I therefore move that they be adopted as presented.
One second.
Athos seconds. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain because I was not present at the meeting.
Okay. Select board reports.
Should we do this, waive the interest in terms of delayed payment? Did you see that on the property tax thing? It's not on the agenda. I guess it's other business, right?
Yeah.
So sorry to throw you out of the order.
No.
No.
Yes, let's see if we can dig it
We
out.
can do that, we can do it after, I'll
Let's
read
do
it.
it, let's do it, yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, sorry.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Okay, why don't we, before the select board reports, let's do it right now. So what we had, a minor adjustment.
Yes, so we approved it as a select board, we approved it at our last meeting, it was an abatement request. And they initially thought that their 21 first half property tax bill would be impacted, and they were waiting to pay this invoice until their abatement request was resolved. Because the amount is just slightly over the $25 threshold of our tax collector can't waive it. Along with the confusion that ensued, the staff has recommended that the select board authorize this abatement request.
So could you put that into a motion?
I move that we authorize the abatement request for 9 Chase Road, to the owners of 9 Chase Road.
I'll second it.
Just for the viewing public, we did receive a written notification of this, and it was important to put it onto tonight's agenda rather than waiting until our next meeting, which is a bit off into August. So further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye. And
Good.
just so you know, the accumulated interest, it's waiving the interest, it's $32.
$32.
So, just so everyone.
Rob, you had one, didn't you, for lease?
Yes, thank you. We received a request earlier today for 4 West Wheelock to seek your permission to approve 2 easements. One is an underground utility easement for electric that comes off of the air rights building, just behind the air rights building itself, owned by the town, parking lot underneath the air rights building. The power would feed onto 4 West Wheelock. 4 West Wheelock, the easement is for about 6 feet from the existing utility vault there onto their property. And the easement is necessary for a project that will bring forward 8 additional rental units in the renovation of 4 West Wheelock. So this project is, the building permit is tied up right now until these easements can be approved. The second easement is a sewer easement from 4 West Wheelock out the backside onto the town's adjacent parking lot to the southwest, accessed by Caldwell Banker's driveway. Both easements have been reviewed and approved by Public Works and Town Council, and they were received, one was received over the weekend and one was received this morning. So knowing that you're not going to meet again until later in August, it was felt that if we could bring this forward tonight, we can move forward with the 4 West Wheelock project.
Which building is 4 West
The
Wheelock?
former
It's-
library.
It's the former library.
Okay.
It's the Wheelock House. That property was approved by the planning board for 8 residential rental units and a commercial office space in the front. And they are moving forward to bring this to fruition. And the only thing outstanding for their building permit are these 2 easements.
Rob, could you phrase that for our help as a motion?
I would offer the following motion that the select board grant the electric utility easement from the air rights property to 4 West Wheelock and a sewer easement from 4 West Wheelock to the adjacent town parking lot as outlined in the easement language approved by town council.
I so move. Second that motion?
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
What's their timeline to complete if they move forward?
They can find a contractor.
They have a contractor in hand.
Excellent.
It has slipped slightly. They were hoping to have the building fully enclosed before winter. They're panelized. It will be a panelized construction model, not unlike Summer Park, where they bring in the side panels and just stand them up. Demo is going to start immediately once these easements are approved and the permit can be issued.
So that building's coming down?
The back storage, the stacks.
Well, the old,
brick.
I remember that from,
So they're keeping Wheelock's house?
They must. There is an easement on it, a historic easement held by Dartmouth College.
Yes.
And they're obligated
That's
to
one thing I did.
maintain the front portion of the building. So the addition will be in keeping with the architectural style of the front building. It'll be a back L, very similar to the architectural style that is the front. And for those who aren't aware, the online permitting software can be viewed by anyone from the pleasure of your home and see the plans yourself.
It's really cool.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thanks, Rob.
I'll be looking, could you give that motion tomorrow to the office so we can, I'll just note that they go to you for the exact language for the motion.
It's recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we have it
Okay,
exactly
thank you.
as.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Select board reports.
Nothing to report.
I also,
I just wanted to kind of echo David's comments and publicly thank town. There were lots of town employees, obviously Betsy was our point woman, but from every single department in our town, especially in the evening, parking people, counting votes, and just doing an awful lot of work, and it reminded me once again, what a wonderful group of men and women we are privileged to have in our hire.
I've received many positive comments about town meeting, particularly about the electrical, electricity aspect of the meeting and the discussion, and the positive response
Yeah.
was I think, really the highlight of the meeting.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was great. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
David, kudos for getting students out. I think it's great. I think that we're talking about how to engage with students in the master planning process, and look forward to engagement, I think. Select board report, committee reports, the Hanover Bike Walk Committee is hosting a bike rodeo on August 4th at the race school. Hanover Police Department is going to be there giving out they're going to have a tent and giving out safety stuff, and we've got a bunch of volunteers. The one comment that I have is that I'm probably the youngest of the volunteers, so if there's any young families out there or students, or we could use some more. I will rope in my 20-somethings, but we could use some young blood, so.
Excellent. Okay, so any other business to come before the meeting? Hearing none, could I?
I move we adjourn.
Yeah,
Motion to adjourn.
8:30, good job, guys.
Wow.
I'll
Is there a
second
second?
that, I'll second that.
Is there any hour-long discussion about adjournment? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned, thank you.